That's fine. We're back up. Let's talk about your dad. You told me a movie story, an emotional story about how that swish about Nigeria happened. So if you don't mind, can you just tell me about how that relates to your dad as well?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, by most Nigerian socioeconomic markers, we were definitely upper class, right?
Yeah.
And the understanding that I had at the time growing up was that as long as you played by the rules, as long as you didn't rock the boat, you didn't create a fuss, you didn't step out of line, you did what was expected of you, you worked hard, kept your head down like my dad did, then all those things you read about on the pages of your newspapers, on Twitter, those things, they happen to other people, they don't happen to you, right? So you and your little closeted existence in Ogrijiari or in VI, where we owned our homes, you'll be fine. And, that works for my dad all his life. He was not like, he never went into politics, he never stole money, he never did any of those things, but he was an establishment man. Again, because I come from an establishment family. My dad was a senior civil servant. When he retired, he went into private real estate practice. He made a fortune. He did very well for himself. So he was the last person to ever pick a fight with anybody or anything. Like, and it was very admirable sometimes. I would see him in situations where I know that if I was the one, I would lose my head. He was just constantly cool and unruffled, permanently unruffled. No matter how irritated something makes him, I never saw him lose his head. Always unruffled. My dad would never pick a fight with anything. So there were many things he didn't like about Nigeria. There were many things he would talk about privately, and you could sense the extreme displeasure. But in public, he would never be the one to come out and put his head up and say, I no go agree. That was not my dad at all. And then, as I said, June 3, 2017, the day before, he was perfectly fine. Now, I mean, we were going through a bit of a rough patch in our period because, again, I'd left the religion. I was no longer a Jehovah's Witness. He was until he died. So that put a lot of strain on our relationship. We actually weren't speaking at the time. I guess I took it for granted that, we'll find our way back to each other. He'll be fine, me too, I'll be fine. And then he wasn't fine. So that morning, I was in Bagada. I was at a supermarket. I forget the name of the supermarket. I think it's called Goody Supermarket. I was with my then wife. We were shopping, and I got a call from my mom, whom I don't speak to very often. So I know she's calling me. It's something important. And I'd actually missed the call, so I called back and she said, come to the house, your father is dying. And I got in the car and I floored it all the way to Ogudiji area and got in there and I met him. He was actually in what used to be my room, because he had after I moved out of the house, for some reason, he moved into my old room. I don't know why. I still think about it sometimes. And he was actually on my bed, and you could tell, like, even from the point of view of an amateur, a non-medical professional, you could tell that like half of his face had collapsed. This was a partial stroke, a classic partial stroke. The man was dying. And all that, I guess, what we needed at that moment in time was an ambulance to get him to the hospital. I'm not a doctor, but I know enough about strokes to know that by and large they tend to, except it's like a total catastrophic one that happens when you are, he was in relatively good health. So, he was 66, he wasn't even that old. So it was recoverable. So we called the Lagos Ambulance Service, 112. Bear in mind that this was a man who, he never expected the government to do anything for him. He lived his whole life like he was his own little private republic. So the house had a 35 kVA generator with like a 1,000 liter external diesel tank. It had 2 huge underground water tanks on our borehole, 2 overhead tanks with 3-step filtration systems. We did everything ourselves. You understand? There was no expectation whatsoever for any kind of government service. Education, we had the best of the best. Everything private. I'm the only person in my family to ever attend a Nigerian university. All my siblings, they went to university outside Nigeria. I'm the only one who spent a minute in a Nigerian university, and even that university was private. Nigerian University. I was there between 2007 and 2008, just about 8 months before I moved to Hull. So that's the kind of person he was. And the one time just the one time we needed the government for something, and it was not a big thing, just an ambulance service. That's it, nothing more. And the ambulance just didn't show up. It just didn't show up. I called, I made the call. They said, okay, they're on their way. And I waited 30 minutes. Bear in mind, this is Ogudiji area, which is like 10 minutes from Bagada General Hospital. You understand? In fact, if he had been downstairs, I might have been able to, me and my sister and I might have been able to sort of find a way to lift him into one of the cars and take him to the hospital ourselves. But he was upstairs. The house didn't have disabled access. There was no way to bring him down without, it was raining that day. The external stairs were like ceramic tiles. So if you sleep on those tiles while carrying a 120 kilogram human being, you're going to kill him. Couldn't carry him downstairs through the internal staircase either. He was just too heavy. We needed help. So I got in the car. I went. There was a hospital at the gates of the GRA called Inland Specialist Hospital. Can't forget the name. So I went there. I begged, please, my old man is dying, please. They said the engine of the ambulance is not working. So okay, can you, 3 or 4 of you, just follow me back? Because I had taken, I think it was a Nissan Pathfinder or something. It was like an SUV I had taken to the hospital. Like, please, follow me back. There's like, because I can't carry him alone. He's very heavy. They said, oh God, we can't leave our duty post without permission from our Oga. I brought out cash from my pocket. I offered them money. Because in Nigeria, you think that last, no matter, once you just do that, you get something, you get what you want. I offered money. And they look at this, oh God, we can't help you. So I went back to the house and I was waiting 1 hour, 30 minutes, 1 hour 45 minutes, 2 hours, 2 hours 10 minutes. By this time, the man had died. We were just watching him. We were in the living room upstairs. He was on the floor, like we had wrapped him in duvets to try and keep him warm because the floor is like marble. It was cold. And he was there, and we literally just saw him expire in front of us. Like, we watched it happen right there. I was there. When you are, I wasn't sad, I wasn't confused, I was just numb. Right? It was like I was watching a movie. It was like an out-of-body experience. You understand? Like, it wasn't real. And then I heard the video intercom ring, and I went down to answer it, and it was the Los Angeles people, the ambulance people, they were there.
How many hours after?
And I let them in. They came upstairs. They examined the body. One of them took me aside, said, oh God, he's gone. I already knew anyway. So in that frame of mind, I was even just thinking, okay, next thing is get him to the morgue and everything. So I was now like, okay, can you help us get him to the morgue and everything? Like, how? I didn't even say can you. It was more like I expected him.
Yeah, of course.
Next thing, I saw all of them packing up and walking. I said, where are you going? They said, oh, we don't carry dead bodies. So like, it was like a dream. I couldn't believe it. I genuinely thought this was some kind of trick or something. Like, you can't be serious. And they got into their ambulance and they sped off. And the body was there. So then I remember I was using this what's it called? This Samsung Galaxy. I forget what the exact phone it was. And I started Googling private ambulance operators in Lagos. And this one will not answer. This one will not answer. This one, after about 30 minutes, I got one. Those ones now said, okay, they will come. I told them, what is that? Can you carry a dead body? They said, yes. I said, it's 50,000. I said, okay, no problem. Come. Gave them the address. This one took like another 2 hours to show. By the time they showed up, the body had started smelling.
Oh, man. Wow.
They came, then they wrapped him up in that black body bag thing. And there were only 3 of them, so I even had to join to help them carry the body bag. And because it was so heavy, when we got to the middle of the landing, in the middle of the stack, the fire escape, we had to set him down. Like, I heard his head, he made contact with the towel. Like, boom. Like, I knew he was dead already, but even then, because it was a really heavy contact. Like, anyway, finally got him into the ambulance thing, whatever it was. Got him to Bagada General Hospital, the morgue. We got there, and just when like it's beginning to start to dawn on me that my father just died. And I'm just there. I'm in a daze. I'm dazed. Next thing, like we're at the morgue, and then the attendant tells me, we know fit, we can't accept the body. I'm like, what? He's like, he doesn't have death certificate. I'm like, so what the fuck do you want me to do in this situation? Like, what? I should drive around Lagos with a body asking for someone to issue me. What do you want me to do? Last, all he wanted was 11,000 naira. I counted out 11,000 naira from my pocket. He wrote out. It was actually an original death certificate, but it was a forgery. Like,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
the paper is he didn't print it himself. It's an original paper, but just so my dad's death certificate was written as cause of death is psoriasis.
Wow.
Psoriasis is basically eczema. You can't die of that shit, but that's what's written on my dad's death certificate, that he died of psoriasis. Because apparently the reason for that is if you write that he died of a stroke or a heart attack, then they have to do an autopsy. So which will create issues because the document is not legit. So it's easier to just write something random so nobody will ask questions. With psoriasis. That's how they put my dad into the freezer. So when that happened, and then the aftermath, because I don't know, maybe a part of me was still thinking, no, somebody is going to be held responsible for this. Like the sky is going to fall down. Something's going to happen. You understand? Because, my dad was, apart from the fact that he was a very important person to me individually, objectively, in Lagos, my dad was a very well-known person. He was a very important person. So, no, this man can't just die and the world will just move on. Like, no, something is going to happen. Like, I don't know what I thought would happen, but I said something has to happen. Nothing happened. So his funeral was June 24. Was it June 24, 2017? It was in Lekki. People packed out. Like 500 people came. Everybody had eulogies. He was such a lovely man, wonderful. He paid for my daughter's wedding. He paid my son's school fees. He did this. He did that, and he will even tell us not to let his wife know. Don't tell my wife. He did this. Everybody had one glowing story about or the other about him, and we didn't. That was I think it was a Saturday. I think Friday or Saturday. By the following Friday, my phone had stopped ringing. The world moved on. Nothing happened. Even the ambulance service. I tried to follow up the issue. Why didn't this ambulance show up in time? No reason was given to me. After I made noise, they said I should go to court. How will I go to court? Because, So what that did to me was that it made it clear to me that no matter where you think you are in the hierarchy of life in Nigeria, no matter where you think you are still at zero level like everybody else. So the guy at Okoko Michael who pushes a wheelbarrow and that Okada will hit him and he will die. And you, the big man that lives in Ogudu GRA with your 3-step filtration system, Nigeria will still happen to you too. You are not different from that guy. And what that told me was that I'm tired of cooperating with this system. I'm tired of being like my dad, because my dad was the ultimate pacifist. He would never fight. He would see all these injustices happening. He would never fight. That was not him. His own is he believes in God's kingdom. He's a Jehovah's Witness. That was just his thing. Last, he would go and pray. They pass like that. Me, I decided I can't do this. I can't accept this. Because I watched it happen. It happened in front of me. It was very, very traumatizing. This is something that happened 6 years ago. I still see it in my dreams sometimes. That's how much this thing fucked me up. So at that moment, it wasn't at that exact moment, but from that moment, I knew that, my life changed from that moment. There are many things about my life that changed from that moment. For example, it's not a coincidence that almost exactly a year after that was when I got my separation. It's not a coincidence. Because there were many things that thing did to make me understand that life is very short and life is very transient. So you can't spend your life doing things that make you unhappy because they're trying to prove some kind of point to anybody, And in a professional sense, what that did to me was that it radicalized me. Because at that time, I just started my gig at Channels TV. So I just come back to journalism from the marketing world. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself that, why are you a journalist if if you can't use that power or that platform you have to fight some of these things, then what's the point of being a journalist? Is it just to write headlines and get paid at the end of the month? So that radicalized me. It did. That's like, if you like, that's my villain origin story, if you call it that.
I mean, it's powerful, and the honest truth is that it's not just yourself. And I think what the elites in Nigeria are creating is they're creating not monsters in a bad way, because a monster can still do good things, you know. So what they've created is millions of monsters.
They radicalize millions of
millions of Nigerians who, like you said earlier, at some point this hold on our neck, they're gonna have to let go, because it can't go on for so long. Your experience is similar to.
I mean, for the fact that people like me are not supposed to be fighting.
Yeah.
People like the people that are supposed to be fighting are the people who Nigeria shows shaggy.
Yeah, of course. So many, and it's so many people.
So like someone like me that grew, I went to Atlantic, or what do I have to fight about? So if someone like me is out here doing a luta continua, you should know that water don't pass Gary. You understand? Because people like me are not supposed to be the ones fighting. So when you are seeing the elite people in the society are fed up with that society, you should know that this thing is on its last legs.
Time's up. Yeah. No, I agree. From your experience to people, to the girl that gets raped and gets killed, there was a lawyer I saw, beautiful lady, got killed by either kidnappers or in the southeast, lack of security. Look at Greenfield University in Kaduna State, to so many other stories, to the girl that wants to travel abroad and a tanker falls on her in Lagos State. There are so many, heart-wrenching stories that we can talk about. And one thing I'm certain of, and this is why, like I told you on our way here, is that at some point something will give. And I hope it's our generation that happens. I hope our generation are those group of persons that will write Nigerian stories. Because I believe that what they've done to Nigeria is so much, the depths they've taken us is so much that it just cannot just happen that Nigeria will just keep on going at this forever. It's not possible. At some point, a reaction is going to happen.
Yeah.
An action, a reaction.
Inevitably.
So it's going to happen at some point. We don't know when, but I believe from what Obi has shown us, it's possible that young people can coalesce, come together and fight these guys.
Or it's also possible that you can end up like Sudan.
I hope not.
And we can see that example right in front of us.
I hope not.
What that Sudan example should show us is that these things that people like us always warn about is not just terror.
Of course.
It happens.
Of course.
It will happen if you don't put certain things in place.
Of course. No, I agree.